10 handicap, looking to work on a few things to improve overall ball striking, and starts with reducing the hand action or flip through strike. Also feeling as though the hips aren't rotating properly through your impact position, and finally trying to finish in the classic reverse K position, which I don't believe you're too far away from, but we'll get back to that in a few moments. Let's start with what I feel is the most pressing, which is the flip or hand action through strike. So although your grip doesn't look too bad, it may be a little bit too far in the palm of your right hand. That way, as you take the club back with a little forward press, you can see it more visibly here, trying to get that more down in the fingers, and although that's the case, you have not really rotated the face open much as you continue good rotations of the hips and the backswing, keeping a fairly short overall length of backswing with the wedge, which I do very much so like, and nothing extreme as far as that face looking too far open. I just think that right hand being down in the palm is causing you to cast and throw it a little bit too early, leading to the cup of the left wrist and the follow through, and that feeling of getting jammed up through strike. So the quick clarification or drill would be very counterintuitive, and it's not something I'd like you to try immediately on the course, but in your backyard environment here, hit maybe 200 balls this way and see if you can get those hands to match your starting position at impact. So what it is this: get into a much weaker grip with both the left and right hand. Now that's going to be an open face biased position, which will then either trigger you to flip it, again, like we know, to close the face. What's open has to be closed, and most people do it by flipping, but your goal would be to get into that weak grip and take as little or as short of a swing as you can to get that left wrist to maintain its bowed position as you hit the ball. You might end up chunking a lot of these shots, but that's okay because it's a short swing and a drill. So a weaker grip with very held bowed positions or bowed wrist angles in the left wrist will allow you to come in with more of that forward shaft lean and hopefully have a steeper, more downward angle of attack, improving your divots, especially with the wedges as well. So we're going to jump back to the hips for a second, but now we can see your club face a little bit more clearly from the down the line view. So again, setup and stance really not too bad. Going to breeze past that and see where your path goes. Yeah, the face maintained very well, although that path is a little inside for a wedge. Let's see where it's going to go up toward the top. Not really in a bad position here, it's just taken away a bit to the inside, but you do lay the shaft back down, also from the inside, and here's the face, which was at its open position here, at its square position here, now slightly open, and in the process of closing it by flipping. So your real goal, as I stated, is get a weak grip and checkpoint, hands forward at impact, checkpoint on the downswing. Just make sure that face is angled down to the ball, because then your body won't feel like you have to do anything or flip it on the way through. So it's rather complicated. I'll be happy to follow up with any clarification of that drill if you follow up with an email. But other than that, path face okay. I think another way to improve your ball striking very easily at the cost of direction would be to get your path to come up the plane line a little bit more, getting away from the inside path, because, well, a wedge should not be that shallow as you're swinging through. A steeper angle of attack should improve your ball striking. So finally, back over to the face on view one more time, and now we're going to talk about the hips and the follow-through position. So you do begin what I would consider appropriately with a little slide or sit to your left side, leading into a pretty solid hip rotation. Now you feel as though you get stuck, and with that very nice posted left leg, it does appear that your hips kind of come to a stalling point. There may be something interesting with reverse hip rotation through this strike, so if you want to do a little external research, go to Google, search Rory McIlroy Sports Science. The first video on there is a very in-depth description of how the hips, when they rotate very quickly, almost come to a stalling or reversing move through that impact, which looks like it's really just stopping and letting those hands pass through. But I wouldn't worry about that, because I think your hips are actually doing fine. To get to that reverse K type of follow-through, let's pull up a Tour Pro comparison and see where we might differ. So again, it's Cam Smith, not really doing anything about his setup or takeaway, just going to get him up to the top of the swing, get a line on his lead hip and a line on the top of his head, cutting him right in half. Let's start that transition on the way down. just like you, begins with a sit to the left side, then leading into a hip rotation, but you see how that left hip doesn't really snap up or post. It stays more down and forward with the wedge, maintaining those wrist angles. But here's the key difference, is once he's in that follow-through position, the chest and left shoulder will begin to rotate up and away from target. The butt end of the club is still pointed fairly close to the chest or the center of the body. So a belly up drill or a shoulder bending backwards type of drill is what you need to do to get into that reverse K, which we can see more clearly here as the upper body is leaning or tilting back and the chest is forward, or the hips are forward of the head in that follow through position. I think you fail in this department because how stuck your head is in this follow through. So here's that sit to the left side. The hips begin clearing more, but watch your head as it stays down, 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 and then your left shoulder works up, your right shoulder works towards target, which is too far forward, and then the head is brought forward as well. So your drill for this, if we're at the top, we get to impact. Start by just getting into your what would be impact position. Have the club in your belt, so grip way down to the graphite, to the steel on the shaft, and implant the grip into your belly button. Work just a very short backswing, not even hitting a ball, but keeping that club into your chest will force your body to turn more upward and get that belt to come up off the ground. So the more you keep your head stuck and down is the more forward you're going to fall with that weight. So I know that's a rather complicated move to explain just through an internet lesson, but there's plenty of drills for the belly up drill to improve or increase shoulder bend backward through strike. So again, happy to clarify any things with the follow-up. Sendaswing.com for your golf swing analysis.